Hey guys, and welcome to part 2 of this video tutorial where I'm going to be teaching you guys how to create a simple app within Tkinter, Python as the main programming language. Of course, Python includes Tkinter. And if you saw my last video, I showed you how to create a very simple screen. So this video tutorial is just going to pick up where it left off. I'm just going to create a new um, file. So what I'm going to do is open up my file here. Now this is tutorial 1 to Tkinter screen app. I'll walk through this with you. As you can see, this creates a very simple layout with the title up front on the top here where normally would be your menu display, the screen size, and I'll walk through this with you ideally. So as you can see, what I did is I imported the module Tkinter into the framework, created a root window. That root window created the size of the window, which is this is your x-axis, your y-axis, and then your position points, and then a title for that main window. Then closed off the main loop with root.main loop. Now I'm going to work within this. I'm going to show you this again. F5 to run. So this is what I'm going to be working within to show you how to create the next thing, which is a label or a button. I'll create a label and a button for this. I'll create a label, and then the next one I'll create a button. So here we go. In order to create a button, remember you already have your screen size or a label for this tutorial. Now your label can be simply created by calling upon the Tkinter options for a label. Now we don't have to import label. It would be smart, depending on if you're using like Kiwi, you have to import it as a separate tool. But for here, Tkinter, since we're importing all, it's already embedded in the Tkinter all function. So in order to create a label, we want to give the label a variable name. So we're going to call this variable name label 1. Now, because it's a label, we're going to call upon the label function in order to create a label. Label 1 equals label, and we're going to call it within the root window. We're also going to define what we want to have done to the label. Now, the label has different options. You can change the size, you can change the color, you can change the position, you can put text within the label, and then you can also call commands within the label, or the button actually is better for calling the command. But for this, I'm going to show you this. So this is going to be our size. We want to call this label. Remember that the size of our screen is 650 by 400. We're going to call this label smaller than that. So I'm going to put width equal to, I'll call it 50. We'll do height equal to 65, just to show you some depth. Now, I want this color to be different than the main gray screen that's called when you create a main window within Tkinter. So I'm going to call the background equal to, we'll say, green, right? And then we can also call the foreground color equal to orange. Now you can use the RGB scale if you want to, and there are other colors that you can call upon. These are just easy colors to call upon for this tutorial. Now one other thing I want to show you, so I did height, you're calling it within the root window, width, height, background green, foreground orange. Now in order to use the foreground orange, we have to, color, we have to define it, we have to call something within the label to be able to show the orange. So we're going to call upon text to show the orange foreground color. And the text is going to be saying label 1 ... Cool. All right. And we're going to close that off. And then because this is Tkinter uses a function called pack, which tells Tkinter to close this. I want to call it a loop, but to close the label function. So we're going to call label1.pack. And then you'll see that we can do different things here within the pack function. So I'm going to save it and call upon it. See, so here we go. Um, Now, as you can see, the color, you can see it there. It says label 1. Cool. I'm actually going to change this to black just so for all intensive purposes. And I'm also going to change the width and screen size to make them a bit smaller. 25, and we'll put this 25 also. And you'll see the label width and height dimensions do overlay the main root window. What I'm also going to do is change the font here. So font is another, I'm going to call this Verdana. We're going to call it size 15. I'm going to call it bold. So you can also change the font to include different fonts within the label. So that's standard within Tkinter. You can also call upon sys, import sys, even though this system isn't being used within this particular framework. It is. I like to have it up there just in case I call upon it for something else. So we're going to run it again and I'll show you. So label 1 cool, as you can see. So I called upon the label. It shows green, label 1 cool, Verdana. And that's pretty much it. Now, one other thing I want to show you is that you can do a couple other things. Like you can define your label to be, I'm actually going to call this 5 because I want this to be, and run it again. All right, so let's call that width 15. And I want to show you that you can move the label around. So within the pack function, you can decide where you want to place the label. So within the screen right now, as you can see, the default setting is for the middle top. When I run this again, as you can see, I put side equal to right. It should move over to the right side over here. So watch this. See, so now it defaults. I believe you can use anchor instead of side. Let's try this. Anchor equals northeast. Let's see, that may not run because that may strictly be for the canvas. Okay, so that's just for the text. So the text is anchored to the northeast, but the label itself, I don't know if I can run an anchor function here. Equals southeast. That may not run. I put southeast, and as you can see, it put northeast because it seems to be conflicting. So I'm going to move this out of here. Yeah, Python does conflict. Like one of the things I noticed is that the canvas and the, no, I did put southeast, right? All right, so the canvas, one other thing too, pad x equals 15, pad y equals 15. This is going to give your your label some spacing. See, so it gives some spacing from the top. That's pad X, right? Pad X moves it from the top. Pad Y moves it left and right. Padding on the left and right. And that, my friends, is the tutorial on how to create a label within Python and Tkinter. Thank you.